Hello and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. Here every Monday night on WEMS Radio from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, Reverend G, here to bring you spiritual conversations. I bring guests from all walks of life, from all professions, from all careers to talk about their spiritual journey and to talk about the things that mean something to them and how they are making a difference in our community. Today, I have a really, really special guest. And what we want to talk about is how spirituality can just be a part of your everyday life. How can you use it moment by moment? And as you know, I talk about the spiritual toolkit. What's in your spiritual toolkit? And as we talk about spiritual journeys, spiritual tools, I hope that you can find some of these tools useful. If you want to find out more information about what I do other than on Monday nights, you can find me on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. I'm also on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on YouTube as Reverend Grenetta Mason. So I hope that this show really, really supports you throughout the week, because I'd like for you to find that joy and live your best life with grace and ease. So tonight I have Marc Thompson, and Marc has many, many roles, and I'm so excited about the different things that he is doing. Marc is an MBA. He's a director of business development at a college in New York City. He's a photographer and a minister. And I'm sure there are so many more sides to Marc. So Marc, coming in and let's have this spiritual conversation.
Beautiful.
Hey, Marc, and welcome.
How are you, Reverend G? So good to see you.
Good to see you too. So Marc, introduce yourself, because I usually come on and I was like, oh, the person has this, this, and this, but give them an essence of who you are. And
okay, excellent. I'm Minister Marc Thompson. I'm the Director of Business Development at Berkeley College. I'm also the President of Dare to Dream Photography. I'm an Associate Minister in Brooklyn at First Calvary Baptist Church.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like a lot of things, Marc. So let's see, where should we start? Okay, all right, let's start here. So, Minister Marc, right? Can you talk to us about, give us a taste of what your spiritual journey was like from a kid and how you transitioned into being Minister Marc?
Okay, as a kid, we were raised as Muslims. My mom and dad, they were Muslims. We studied the Quran. We went to the mosque for many years, and my dad was away, but we still practiced the precepts of Islam. But when I was a freshman in college, that's when I became a Christian. I attended a Baptist church in Harlem called Convent Avenue Baptist Church, and during that particular period, I studied the Bible, said my prayers, and over time I transitioned to First Calvary Baptist Church in Brooklyn, where I became a walking deacon for about 12 to 15 months. Then that's when God called me to be a minister. So, that's my journey.
It's interesting to think that going from being raised Muslim and now transitioning into a Baptist Christian minister, right? Where do they merge for you? Because I'm an interfaith minister, so I can look at all religions and understand where they merge, I would say. For you, as growing up Islam and now Christian?
I would say one of the main differences is that as a Muslim, we believe that, Jesus Christ was a prophet. Now, as a Baptist minister, I believe that Jesus Christ is indeed the Son of God. And that's one of the main differences between the two.
Mm-hmm.
We prayed 5 times a day as Muslims. We
Mm-hmm.
pray regularly as Christians, and
Mm-hmm.
I've just put my faith and trust in God. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the main differences. Like as a Muslim, we paid more homage to the Prophet Muhammad than we did Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay, that was the difference. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And in your role as minister, what are some of the things? Do you preach on Sundays? What are some of your roles as Minister Mark?
As Minister Mark, I teach. We teach every Wednesday. We have Bible study, and we take turns teaching on Zoom. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of the pandemic, before the pandemic, we had an awesome Wednesday night service called Wow
Mm-hmm.
at First Calvary Baptist Church in Brooklyn at 953 Putnam Avenue. And that was our pastor, Earl Jones' opportunity to train his ministers. So every
Oh,
Wednesday night, we took turns preaching his ministry team.
mm-hmm.
And we also teach Sunday school. And
Oh,
he'll call us randomly to preach the 11 a.m. service. Just recently, I got the opportunity to minister the Sunday service. We
oh,
just we just started an excellent YouTube page. It's First Calvary Baptist Church in Brooklyn YouTube page,
mm-hmm.
and you know, I pastor is Reverend Earl Jones Sr. But it's been an amazing experience. You know, at the Brooklyn Church,
Mm-hmm.
the training is excellent. Our pastor is big on serving our community every week.
Mm-hmm.
They feed like people in the community. We have a food pantry.
Oh,
We also provide clothing. We have something coming up this Saturday where we're giving out clothing to people in the community. So
mm-hmm.
our pastor is and First Lady are big on serving our community.
Yeah, and you're very involved in that. It's interesting wearing so many hats and doing so many things, right? I know as an entrepreneur, the photography is a part of what you do. And let's talk about your photography as an entrepreneur and the impact that COVID has had on your business.
Normally I do before the pandemic, I would normally do anywhere from 5 to 10 weddings per year. But because of the pandemic in 2020, I didn't do any. So that was a major impact. I would normally do like anniversaries, weddings, sweet 16s, but in the midst of the pandemic, all those contracts were canceled. So that took a major impact on me as a small business owner.
Mhm, mhm. Were you able to get any support as a small business owner during this time?
You know, I really didn't really apply for any support, but the good part was that I started doing workshops on
Oh,
Zoom. So I've
oh,
done workshops throughout the entire pandemic on Zoom, empowerment workshops, um, overachieving, overcoming obstacles, no pain, no gain. I've
mhm,
done maybe 10 employment readiness workshops on Zoom. I've really reached out to my community in that particular way. I've done free workshops, motivational workshops, to try to, you know, make a name for myself that helped
mhm,
me. Then a
mhm.
couple of organizations actually hired me as like a workshop facilitator.
Oh, that's really good that you are out there teaching and sharing. That's one of the things that's important for us to share our services. As a workshop facilitator, I know that you've also done workshops with empowering young Black males, and you have some Black male initiatives. Can you talk about that initiative and where it's going and what you're doing with it now?
Currently, I have a full curriculum in place, and several organizations are working very closely with me to
Mhm,
provide training, like on Saturdays, on Zoom. I've
mhm,
also partnered with various organizations around the city to help, men who have been incarcerated to develop skills when it comes to like construction. And they teach them how to install sheetrock, how to actually paint, how to lay wooden floors. And I think once you gain those particular skills, it puts you in a position where you can take care of yourself. Because I think in many cases, it could be very challenging if you have a background. So, my dad was incarcerated. And I know the toll that it played on my mom having 6 kids and raising 2 cousins financially and emotionally. So I've always had a soft spot for people who had challenges with the law. And I've done everything in my power to teach them resume writing, interviewing skills. I've put together like at least 5 career fairs in the Bronx community to empower people who have, backgrounds. And I've partnered with like many organizations that are friendly to individuals who may have records, females as well as males, over the years.
And in the community, you have people that support you in getting people to you where you're doing these jobs. You're working mostly in the Brooklyn community, or are you doing these workshops all over?
I've been blessed. I've been blessed to work with many elected officials in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. And I think a lot of it comes from my day job, where I'm the director of business development, where I have to partner with, large and small organizations to help our students find internships as well as jobs. I've formed a tremendous partnership with the Brooklyn Nets, where we've actually allowed like our kids, anywhere from 32 to 34 kids, to go on the floor at the Nets games and meet the players. I've partnered with Applebee's in the Brooklyn community as well as the Manhattan community to do fundraisers for our community. I've been part of like poetry events, individuals who have talent to do poetry.
There's so many things.
Yes,
everything.
Yes. My mom is, she was always doing different things for the community, so that's what we grew up in our home watching, like my little daughter now, she's a college student about to graduate, but I look at her, she just completed like 120 hours of community service her senior year. And I look at her and I smile. I say, man, you're doing the same things that, I love doing. So I'm really excited. But service, being a servant leader has been very important to me most of my life.
And I can see how you're combining being the minister and being in the community also, right? Working with the community in that way. When we talk about spirituality, and I talk about using spirituality every day. What does that look like, right? We talk about spiritual tools, right? And being out there for you, you like wear many different hats, right? How do you juggle them all? You're Minister Marc at one point, and then you're the director of business development, and you are then a photographer. How do you juggle all that? What supports you in getting all of that done?
Great question. I really have to tell you, it's my faith. One, I study the word every day. I pray every day. I read my scriptures. They keep me strong. And my church community. I really lean on them, for different things, and they always support me, as well as my family, my wife, my 2 daughters. So it's pretty easy to prioritize everything. And something that I think is vitally important is like when we do things, we have to make sure we do things that we're passionate about. So I love ministry work. That comes to me easy. I love my camera, and I love, serving the students at the college where I work and the graduates. So those are all things that are pretty easy for me. And, I wake up early almost every day. So I'm an early riser. So it's easy to prioritize and put everything in place. And during the pandemic, it's been, you have to do everything virtually now. So it's not as complicated as it could be when things are like normal.
Yeah,
Everything is.
it's not normal. What can you talk about the impact of COVID? Some of the things that you've seen, and because it's almost a year now that we've been in this COVID way. Can you talk about your experiences during COVID?
Um, Before COVID, I could go to a networking event with 200 to 500 people, and I
Mhm.
could walk away from that particular event with anywhere from 50 to 100 business cards.
Mm,
And you form new relationships. You go back to your office, you call, you send emails, and you create great partnerships for big events to
mhm,
support like your organization that you work for.
mhm,
Now it's totally different. Like many of those large networking events are not actually happening where you meet people in person. So
mhm,
you had to be strategic and start
mhm,
joining networking events online, virtually.
mhm,
And in the past, we would do at work, we would have career fairs where we had anywhere from 30 to 45 companies participate. And what we had to do was convert all of that to Zoom events. So
mhm,
tremendous difference in terms of how to network with organizations. So that has been like one of the major impacts of the pandemic versus being in normal situations.
mhm,
However, our grads still need jobs. Our
mhm.
students still need interns. So we use various things like LinkedIn, we use Instagram, we use Facebook, you know, walking around like the community, talking to different organizations. So you still have to do your job to the best of your ability.
Do you think that it will go back, or what do you think the future looks like in terms of will we go back to that whole in-person networking thing? What do you think that's going to look like? Because everybody talks about the new normal and how things are going to look differently. What is your assessment of that?
I think many organizations got the opportunity to see ways that we can really function. Like you pay a lot of rent.
Hmm.
Businesses, many corporations have agreed to allow their employees to work from home and save money on paying rent. So I think a lot of things are going to be different even when we go back to things being normal. Because we've learned new ways to be successful and be strategic in
Hmm.
our approach to doing business. Even myself, like I've partnered with a couple of photography organizations around the city, like
Hmm.
studios, and it's far less than it was before the pandemic to rent those particular spaces.
Hmm.
So I doubt if things are going to be the same even when
Hmm.
they go back to like normal. I'm sure we're going to have to, go to our offices and things like that, but I'm confident that many companies are going to be doing things so different to do business. Some
Hmm.
companies are doing even better in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah, because some of them had to shift,
Yes.
right? And take advantage of different opportunities. So if were able to be flexible and shift into something else, there's a lot of people that are really doing really well right now. But then there's a whole other side where, people are just not doing so well. So it just seems like perspective. If
Yes.
we're looking at, the impact, let's say, of COVID and the whole 2020, there's so many people that are suffering on the side of not having food and not being able to have jobs. So we could look at it on both perspectives. Because as I listen to you, I think about how successful you've been, and then I want to go to the place. So, what tips can you give, right, for people interested in being an entrepreneur at this time?
I think the priority number one is that you have to keep a positive perspective. And I think that's the biggest challenge to entrepreneurs. that's the biggest challenge for people who want to be successful. And, you know, it's difficult. But I think, I mean, I come from like the urban community, single parent household. You know, dad wasn't really in the home with us. And mom always had a positive perspective. And she, you know, had affirmations she embraced. You know, I would wake up many days as a young kid and see my mom praying. And, you know, I saw her go to college and raise 6 kids and 2 cousins. You know, my mom is about 72 pounds, but her tenacity, her perseverance, you know, her character, and, you know, the integrity. And one thing I learned at a young age, she was always tapped into the community.
Okay.
So she was connected with the elected officials. You know, she was connected to the movers and shakers in our community that could help us find part-time jobs as young kids, summer youth. She knew all the people who were tapped into like the lunch programs. There was a lady in our building named Miss Tate. She was like one of the pillars in our community. She took us to Kips Bay Boys Club. So mom was always pointing us in a direction to do positive things when we were young kids. So I've taken that same approach. You know, I wake up early. I know who my elected officials are in the Bronx. I know what particular organizations are impacting the community to provide food, to provide clothing, to provide training, you know, so I'm tapped into those particular organizations. I participate every week in networking events with entrepreneurs, and I get ideas from them on how to do business. And I think...
Go ahead.
And I think it's very important to constantly look for ways to work on your skills. You may not have all of the answers, but you want to surround yourself with a community where you can get those answers if you don't have them. And you want to be around people that you can communicate and say, hey, I'm not so great when it comes to Zoom or when it comes to Salesforce. Can you teach me? And you want to surround yourself with leadership who want to see you be successful. And I think that's important. And I think once you realize that you may not have all the answers as an entrepreneur, but you have a community with some of those important answers that's going to help you be successful, networking is key. So be connected to your community, be humble, be constantly looking for ways to improve yourself. And don't be a know-it-all. Once you become a know-it-all, that's when it's all downhill. We say in our church, pride comes before the fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
So be humble. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good because at this time, entrepreneurs really do need a lot of support to reinvent themselves and to get back where they were. So I like the whole idea of staying positive and going for what you want. And as you have mentioned, you talked about your mom, and I know that you are a parent. And you had mentioned earlier about your daughter, and I heard about her community services. Talk about your relationships with you have 2 daughters?
Yes.
Right. And the relationship with them and how you have related to them during this time of COVID. And because they are young, and I always am interested in how young people talk about COVID and the questions that they ask and how we support them.
It was incredibly difficult at the height of the pandemic because my oldest daughter, who's now a senior in school in North Carolina, she had to come home. So leave her pretty dorm, come home. That was difficult. So that caused her a little, depression. She had to take all of her classes online, but she persevered through it. And my younger daughter, who's in high school, she also had to take all of her classes online as well. So she had some challenges as well. Those youngsters, they love communicating and seeing their friends every day.
Yeah.
So that was really tough for like our household, but we persevered through it. We communicated, and my wife as well. She actually had to work from home as well. So it was all four of us in the house every day. So that was totally new for us to see each other that much. And, we started playing games together and doing, fun things. And we got past that difficult time. And it became even more challenging because we lost like 4 family members to COVID-19. So I've officiated maybe 5 funerals during the pandemic.
Well, okay. So it's really impacted you close.
Yes, very close. But
I recently lost my sister to COVID, right?
My condolences to you.
Yeah. And just thinking about the whole impact of COVID and it's been so recent that even having the spiritual practices to support me through the whole period, right? You know how we know when we say, oh, from Christianity, this is good, and be blessed, right? Be happy that they're going on to being angels and God has called them. But here in our human side, there's a sadness and that we're going to miss them. And so being able to reconcile both of those sides has been what I've been working through. And I know that there's been so many people impacted by COVID, right?
Yes.
That whatever tools and whatever things can support them in, healing. Because even if we think about healing from COVID, we think about healing from the racial tension. It just feels like, did that go away? Remember when they were doing all the rioting and they were calling for equality? I mean, I know that there hasn't been, like, we've seen like police killings as the way they were then, but what happened to all of that? Where were you during that time, and what do you think about everything that happened along the racial tensions?
Great question. I right around the period when George Floyd was killed, I communicated with like several people, and they said to me, I'm struggling right now, Minister Marc, I'm struggling. I saw that impact affected me on an emotional level. I can't get past the pain. I can't. So what I did was I put together a Zoom George Floyd event. And we had people from all over the community. We had pastors from around the city. We had ministers. We had deaconess. We had Christian people on this community Zoom call. And, we talked about it, the impact, how it affected us. And, people walked away from that experience feeling better. That somebody acknowledged, like, the trauma that they were dealing with, the hurt and the pain. And I realized that at that particular point, it's important to be transparent. And I think sometimes we go through like the pain cycle, we keep it to ourselves. And for some people, they deal with depression, in different ways. So that was an opportunity for people to express the hurt and the pain that they were dealing with. And I want to tell anyone on the call tonight, if you're dealing with some pain from the pandemic, whether it be loss of a job, grieving over a loved one, financial challenges, anything, it's imperative to talk up, to speak up. I was on a Zoom call with my group, and I acknowledged like the emotional toll losing family members had played on me. And just opening up and being transparent, being vulnerable, that made me feel so much better that I could just say that. And I think sometimes we walk around like we have to be Superman with the S on our chest.
Right.
Whether we lose a loved one, you're human.
Yeah.
It's okay.
What's important right there, that's important, is that people know that spaces like that exist.
Yes.
I was involved in some healing circles where we would just come together and just talk about it, and talking about it felt really, really good. And the idea is letting people know that this sort of help, these spaces where you
Yes.
can talk about it exist, and being out there letting people know, I guess is what I'm saying, really that there is and that it is very healing to be able to talk about it. We don't have to hold the anger, because we get so angry, we're so upset, we're so used to pushing it down and pushing forward,
Yes.
right? Until we get to a point where then we do crazy things maybe, or we're not responsible for some of our actions. And for each person, it shows up differently. So I'm happy to hear that you have those spaces for people. That's really good, because at this point, I think that the mental health is really important. And I'm excited that we are supporting people with their mental and their spiritual health also. When we were talking about how spirituality supports in everyday life, right? During this time when people are mentally unstable, right?
Yes.
Some are hungry. And even I think about the best of us. I am so blessed. I was able to work from home, but COVID has taken a toll on me also, and being able to acknowledge where it has, right?
Yes.
And what I could do to support myself for being in the house all of these months, a person that's used to going out and being with people. And I've been able to do a lot of Zoom, right?
Yes.
Keep up with people in that way, but it can be pretty much hard sometimes after not being able to just go out and be with people. So there are a lot of things that I would like to share with the people to support them through this time. What different tools? I took up games, and I was doing jigsaw puzzles, right? And so I know that my sister does them, and I was saying to her, that's a spiritual practice. And then she was like, well, how is that a spiritual practice? I said, so how do you feel when you're doing it, right?
Yes.
Calms her down. She's relaxed, right? There's a sense of joy and appreciation when you get the pieces in, right?
Yes.
And so what is the purpose of a spiritual practice, right? It's to support you when you feel lost or when you need clarity and all of that. So when we talk about spiritual practice, and I talk about the spiritual toolkit, we have the usual prayer. A lot of people use prayer and meditation, and you read your Bible every day, right? Those are some of your practices. And it's interesting when I just thought of you reading your Bible every day as a part of what you do, as a part of your spiritual practices, and how that supports you reading your Bible, and how you can use that on an everyday basis, right, in your life. Because I went to church and everything. And one of the things that I always look for is, once I left, how does this support me throughout the whole week?
Yes.
And go ahead.
I would say for me, I read the scripture, I pray, I also write every day. So I write like encouragement, affirmations. I post them on Instagram.
Oh, right. Okay.
I also write poetry. I think I've written about 50 to 60 poems throughout the pandemic. So those have been very encouraging for myself. I've written maybe 25 sermons during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So I do different things to keep my spirit charged, keep my spirit encouraged. And I think it's imperative that you tap into something that's going to feed your spirit. Just like we eat food every day, just like we drink water, you want to do different things that's going to keep your spirit encouraged. And I think tapping into those particular things, it could be prayer, it could be exercise, it could be studying your Bible, it could be listening to a sermon or something that keeps you encouraged. It could be listening to music, different things to keep your spirit encouraged every day. That's what I think keeps me very strong.
I like that because when I see you every day posting the affirmations, and they're always inspiring, and I see you that you've been able to use social media in a way that's supporting you in getting clients. Can you talk about your experience with social media and what you're doing with your business?
With my Instagram pages, it's called I Dare You to Dream. And I've utilized that to put up affirmations every day, post some of my pictures. And many people have seen my pictures and called me to do like photography jobs. Like before the pandemic, that helped me land weddings. It helped me land sweet 16s, anniversaries. And people said, hey, I really like that encouraging quote that you put up yesterday. So that has helped me land business. Maybe I put up a photo of my daughter and my wife, and people say, I like the connection that you have with your family. You know, because my family, that keeps me motivated. Just seeing them every day, or seeing them doing well, or, you know, living their dreams. So like I was telling you earlier, that's my passion. So it comes easy for me to do that every day.
Right, because you're passionate about it. I love that. And we always talk about finding our passion. And if we can find what we're passionate about, then it doesn't feel like work, and it doesn't become hard, the things that we do, right? So what kind of programs do you see yourself doing going forward, Marc, to support your community, and how can people connect to you? Talk about some of the programs that you have going forward.
A couple of organizations have reached out to me about doing more empowerment sessions. So I'm working with a couple right now where we're going to do things virtually online, maybe on Saturdays for their groups. And that's something that I really want to put together. That's what I think I'm called to do.
What is your empowerment workshop or training consist of?
They're all like motivational encouragement workshops, really trying to help individuals move from point A to point B, giving them particular structure to get there and reasons to get there. And that's what I love to do, seeing people do well, seeing people move from point A to point B. Because I think right now there's so many different things around you to make you discouraged and not move forward. And I think if you're not getting any encouragement from anybody, people are not pointing out the direction that you should be heading in, people are staying stagnant because there's so many different things that could cause you to be depressed or sad right now. When you look around you, you look at, you know, our communities, you look at the state of our economy right now, it can be really tough. People who have been home since the beginning of the pandemic who are not working right now. And I speak to people regularly in those particular situations. And, you know, one person told me last week, I don't even apply for jobs anymore. So
yeah, that's something, because talking about jobs and work and getting people ready. I work at an educational opportunity center. And right now, they're doing an entire initiative with John Jay around justice served people. And what they are putting together is an entire training program for them to get their high school equivalency. Once you get the high school equivalency, then you could go to college, or we have career training programs that you could do. So I think that that would be like the initiative you're doing with incarcerated. That could be a great partnership, you know, to look at getting some of the people that you work. I think we should talk about that, and I could introduce the people
Right.
that you work with to our program. And I know now there's a lot of funding for working with, they call it justice served people now.
Okay.
And it's across the board. You don't have to necessarily be the person, but it could have been your parent or somebody close to you. And then we're willing to support you because of the whole community. So any of the programs that you have now, I think it would be great for us to come together on that one. And I'll talk about some of the things in the community and ways we can support. I like what you said when you talked about your programs being motivational and moving people from one point to the next. And I could see how you could use that with the college, working in career development there. And so when you talk about passion, everything seems to go together. What other things are you working on that you would like to share with us today?
I've been trying to work closely with like men. Like I was just a guest speaker on a show recently that was dealing with men who have gone through, you know, challenging experiences.
Oh,
And, you know, just trying to let men right now in our community going through challenges know that they have like a support system out here, you know, because think about it. You're the man of the house, but you're not working. You know, things are financially tough. And sometimes, you know, we can talk to women and tell them about different things, but I think it's more effective like when men come together.
mm-hmm,
Some of the
mm-hmm,
sessions I've had, they've consisted of just men. Like we had something in Brooklyn at the church called the Locker Room before the pandemic. And in those particular sessions, men would talk about issues and things that they were going through that they wouldn't normally talk to women about. And I
mm-hmm,
think it's important that as men in our community that we have a locker room where we can converse about different challenges and things that we're going through and come together and come up with solutions to bring about change in our communities as well as our homes, you
mm-hmm,
know, because it's not always easy to share with women, you know, things that cause us setbacks and, you know,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
challenges and things like that. But it's a little more easy when we come together as men. And in those locker rooms, those were some great sessions because
Mm,
you had older men speaking to like the younger generation, myself, and giving us encouragement to keep going forward. Like, you know, the pastor,
mhm.
other ministers, and, you know, other seasoned men would share with us in those particular sessions that kept me encouraged. And like I was telling you earlier, kept my spirit charged.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
think we have to have forums like that where we can converse with each other and empower each other, you know. And in those particular cases, guess what? You find so many different solutions. You may
Yeah.
go to one of those sessions and leave with a new job.
Mm,
You may go to one of those
mhm,
sessions and, you know, put yourself in a position where you can do some personal, professional development for yourself,
mhm.
you know, from getting information from somebody else. But I think the key for us is to be connected with your community. If anybody is
Yeah.
listening right now, the
Mhm,
worst thing you can do is just sit home and feel like you're all by yourself
mhm.
because you're not.
Definitely.
You're
Right.
not. You know, if you need help, you got to step out, say, hey, I need help. You know, I'm challenged right now. I need help. And I think that's the key to your success. I don't care where you are. I've been unemployed. I've been broke, busted, and disgusted. But when I opened up
Yeah.
my mouth and I said, hey, I need help, guess what? The help that I was looking for came to me. People came to support me. And if anybody's listening right now and you need professional help, you got to step out, go get the help that you need. Don't just sit there and let your situation continue to be bad. I had a friend like a few years ago. She told me she was having a challenge. I met with her 3 times, and I tried to motivate her to action, and she would not move, and the situation became worse. So if there's anybody on this call listening and you're challenged, you got to move. You got to move from point A to point B. If you need help, you got to step out and say, "Hey, I need help." And when I reached out and said I need help, a whole community came to my aid.
Yeah. You know what I thought about too, when I think about the church, there's the church community where you have the men in the church, they come together, but then there are the non-church community, the men that don't go to church, right?
Yes.
And some of the same ideas, how do we reach those men too? Because you're doing a great job, say, within the church community, and then there's so many that are not in the church community, and being able to create programs that will attract them, being able to let them know that there is support for them, being able to, let them know that they can come together and talk, because sometimes people don't necessarily go to the church anymore. There's a huge community, right?
Something that we've done that has been pretty good. We've created forums for people who don't go to church, how they can connect with the church outside of the church.
Oh, okay.
For example, what we've done, we've had like trips to the Nets game. We had trips where we had 160 people go to the Nets game. And that was a fundraiser for our group. And at those particular functions, people got the opportunity to see the Nets game. They got the opportunity to network and talk to other men, other women. They walked away with Nets jerseys, Nets bags. Their kids got the opportunity to go on the floor and meet the players. And I think taking the social events like that outside the church, like go on fishing trips, trips that men enjoy, go on retreats, men's retreats, have leadership forums outside of the church, events that empower people within the community. You don't have to always do things inside the church. But I think something that I think is vitally important, it's imperative that those men that you're working with, help them see the mission that you're working on. Like say to them, we're trying to impact these young kids in our community, make a difference in their lives. And we're asking you, Mr. Joe, who doesn't go to the church, could you be a part of that?
Okay, right. A community event, more community by reaching out to them. Yeah, right. Yeah, because I think about the church and how many, there's a percentage in the church, and then there's a huge percentage that's not in the church. And how do we support them, and even support them in having spiritual practices? That don't necessarily mean you have to go to church every Sunday, but you have a personal relationship with God. And you have practices that support you when you need them. Like the same way when you go to church and you have your practices, we can have those same things. So it's really important for us, as you were saying, to reach out to the community, to let the community know that they have options, that there are things for them to do.
And you know what else I think too is key? You just got to let those men know that they're cared for, that you care about them. Send them a text message, send them give them a phone call. I think that's vitally important. Sometimes we say we're the church, but we don't act like the church. But if you're texting somebody to say, hey, I know you just lost a loved one, I care about you. I officiated a funeral a couple of weeks ago in Philadelphia for a good friend of mine, and I've texted her like 3 or 4 times since the funeral. Just hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you and your family. People have to know that they're cared for. don't just say you're the church, act like you're the church.
Outside. And people
Yes.
do really, really respond to feeling like somebody cares about them, like they're not out there all alone. And I hear what you're saying is the church is in the community, and the things that you're doing, you're out there connecting with the people and being a part of the community and supporting them in ways that they need to be supported, where you're not necessarily just in the church and they have to come into the church to receive anything. You've taken it outside of the church into the community. And that's interesting. When I think about how people respond to, say, a religious church group, as opposed to a non-denominational, where it doesn't say, oh, we're the Calvary Baptist Church. It says, oh, we're Marc Thompson Community Service. You know what I'm saying? The difference between those.
I think when you see a need, fill it.
Yeah.
That's what I think being in church is. You know, somebody needs a coat, fill the need. You know somebody needs some food, fill the need. Right? It's about service. Like, my goal is to be a servant leader. I care less who get the credit. You know, when I was a young kid, it was always somebody there. I was in the boys' choir of Harlem. Mom capital was low. It was somebody there who stepped in and paid for my camp. It was somebody always in my community who took care of me.
Yeah.
You know, like Fordham University paid for all my books. Somebody was always stepping in, taking care of me. So I'm just trying to pay it forward and help people. And I think it's imperative that we have a sensitivity for other people. And I think as long as you have that sensitivity for others, you'll be fine. And especially now, people need comfort. People need encouragement. So we have to make sure our sensitivity antennas are up at all times. And you may not be able to help somebody financially, but like I was telling you, letting them know you care about them, let them know that they're thought about. You know, call them, text them, jump on a Zoom call with them. You know, something to keep their spirit uplifted.
I like making people laugh. That's what I like about comedy, right?
Yes.
And I always talk about, you know, no matter what's going on, if any moment you can find just a bit of joy, right? Always look for just some point of joy. And as you said, people feel good when you encourage them, right? Or when you make them laugh, or you shift them for a moment in feeling joy. That's one of the things that I love to do. Along with, you know, encouraging people and supporting them and just having hope, you know, and knowing that everything is going to be all right. One of my favorite things is everything is always working out, right? Right? So, yes. Always.
All things work together for good.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But you notice when you're joyful, your spirit is vibrant. You feel charged. You can move forward. You think creatively. You're inspired.
Absolutely. It's the energy. Yes. The energy of joy brings more energy of joy, right? And I like what you say, when you're joyful, you're inspired. You move in a different way when you have that sense of joy.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's interesting because life just happens. Things happen all around you, and it's so powerful to be able to find that spark of joy, because it'll bring you out, right?
Yes.
It'll always. So we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. So I'd like to give you a time to, you know, leave a message, tell people how to get in touch with you, and leave people with something that will inspire them.
You can get in contact with me. I'm at I Dare You to Dream on Instagram. I'm at Marc Thompson on Facebook. I'm at that's MARC Thompson at Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn at Marc Thompson MBA. And if you need me, please reach out to me. And I just want to tell you, if you're listening today, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. You got to continue to keep pressing forward. You got to keep looking up. You know, great things are going to happen. That's what I believe.
The best is yet to come.
Best is yet to come. Best is yet to come. One of my favorite scriptures is the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. It says, though you stumble, though you fall, you will never be cast down because God promised to uplift you with his mighty hand.
Yeah.
So the best is yet to come.
Thank you, Mark. It's been really great having you here tonight. And
thanks for having me, Rev G.
Yeah, and we will definitely be in touch. And I am so excited about what you're doing in the community, what you're doing with the church, how you're impacting and just being a role model. And I love that you're able to balance all of these things. It's like Mark is doing so many things, but it's great. So I'm really glad that you can join me tonight, and we will definitely be in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a blessed night.
You too.
All right.
Thank you for joining me tonight here on Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night on WEMS Radio from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., bringing you special guests from all walks of life. We talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. We look at different spiritual tools that we can use, spiritual practices to put in our spiritual toolkit. And I think a spiritual toolkit is really important in supporting you throughout every single day. In every moment, you can pull something out that can bring you joy, that can bring you clarity, that can support you when you are stressed out, right? And as we talk about the joy and the laughter, we talk about it from a perspective of search for that joy, find the joy, because as we know, if you get on the energetic level of happiness and joy, you will bring more happiness and joy to you. So when you find yourself feeling a little bit out of it, try smiling, try finding just a little bit of joy, and you will find that you will shift. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, Reverend G, and you can find me on Instagram as Rev Grenetta with affirmation and motivational sayings every day. I'm on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason, and you can find me on YouTube as Reverend Grenetta Mason. It's great seeing you here tonight, and I will see you again next Monday night with a special guest. Have a great week.